Alright, welcome to our Algebra 1 Quadratics Test 2 review. This is the review that we went over today, and I'm just giving you every bit of the information you'll need and working out every problem just like it'll be on the test. So let's start with number 1. So in number 1, we're factoring 16x squared minus 1. Now 16x squared minus 1 is difference of two squares simply because I can take the square root of 16x squared and I can take the square root of 1. And then the subtraction in the middle is going to be the difference. So that tells me this is a prime candidate for difference of two squares. So if I take the square root of both of those numbers, we'll start by doing that. The square root of 16 is going to be 4x. And what I want to do there is I want to go ahead and put a 4x on this other side for my other set of brackets. Now the square root of 1 is going to be 1. So I want to put a set of 1s for each bracket. And then the finishing touch here is because of this negative, we want to make one of them positive and the other one negative so that we eliminate our b term and make the last term negative in the problem. So that's all there is to factoring. Now remember, factoring is getting it to the parentheses. So that's what we have done here in this part of the problem. Question number 2. Question number 2 wants us to factor, and then it gives us x squared plus 4x minus 21. Now, the best way to go about this one is label a, b, and c. So here a is equal to 1, b is equal to 4, and c is equal to negative 21. So all we want to do here is we want to go ahead and write our x puzzle, labeling a times c on top, b on bottom, and looking for two numbers that multiply to give us the top but add to give us the bottom. So with this, we're going to say a times c is going to be 1 times negative 21, which is negative 21. And then b is going to be equal to positive 4. So two numbers that will multiply together to give me negative 21, but add to give me 4, is going to be 7 and negative 4. Now, once I'm finished with that, all I need to do is take whatever my a value was, which here was 1x. And we're doing the diamond method, in case you're not sure what method we're working on here. And then when we do 1x over 7, we look to see if it reduces, which this does not. And then same thing on this side. We have a fraction that does not reduce. So therefore our answer is going to be x plus 7, since this was a positive 7. And then this is going to be x minus 4. Now, once again, the question said to factor, so all we need to do is leave it in the brackets, and we have our correct answer. Moving on to number 3. Number 3 moved from factoring into solving. Now, understand, there's two ways to solve this problem, and we'll work both of them out up here. The first way to solve this problem is to go in and actually factor by solving. So, same concept as the last problem. We want to label a, b, and c. And here a is equal to 3, b is equal to negative 8, and c is equal to negative 3. So with this problem, what I want to do to factor is I'm going to set up my x puzzle. Remember, up here in the top, we're going to have a times c, which is going to be negative 9. And down bottom, we're going to have b, which is negative 8. So what two numbers multiply together to give me negative 9, but add together to give me negative 8? Negative 9 and positive 1. Alright, once I have that information, I can then do the same thing as I did earlier. Take my a value, which is 3, place this over 3, put a 3x on top. And then 3x over 1, I can't reduce that as a fraction any further, so I'm going to leave it as is. But this 3x over negative 9, I know 3x over negative 9 will reduce down to x over negative 1, or my bad, not x over, I got confused there. 1x over negative 3, sorry. So we can divide both of those by 3 to get it to reduce down. Now, once we have our two numbers that we've reduced, we can then set it up into factors. So this one is going to be 3x, and then since it's a positive 1, that's a plus 1. The other factor is 1x minus 3, or x minus 3. And then keep in mind, we're solving here, which means it's equal to 0. So to solve the problem, we would say 3x plus 1 equals 0. And then we would say x minus 3 equals 0. To solve the rest of the problem, we would just simply subtract 1 from both sides on this side. We would get 3x equals negative 1. Divide by 3 on both sides, and we're going to get x equals negative 1/3. On the other side, we're going to simply add 3 to both sides. Much easier problem on this side. And x is going to be equal to positive 3. Now this is one way of going about it. So now let's look at the other way. The second way to work this problem is using the quadratic formula, which is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac divided by 2a. Now, although the formula looks really tough, it's going to be on your formula sheet, so you don't have to memorize it. And then really all it is substitution and solve. So let's see if we work it out and get the same answer over here on the left. So to work it out this way, once again, we're going to need a, b, and c. So here a is equal to 3, b is equal to negative 8, and then c is equal to negative 3. So when we substitute that information in, we're going to get x equals negative times b, so b is going to be negative 8, plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is going to be negative 8 squared, minus 4 times a, which is going to be 3. And then I'm running a little bit out of space. Let's move this over just a tad. There we go. And then c, which is going to be negative 3. So we can write in a negative 3 on this side. And then that's all divided by 2 times a, which a is going to be positive 3. Now, to solve this, you can use a calculator if you needed to. We're just going to use our brain. So here we've got negative times negative 8, which is going to be a positive 8, plus or minus the square root of negative 8 squared, we know is 64, because negative 8 times negative 8. And then negative 4 times 3 is negative 12. Negative 12 times negative 3 is going to be positive 36. So 64 plus 36 is going to give me a final answer of 100 underneath the radical. And then 2 times 3 we know is going to be 6. Now we can simplify this on down by saying the square root of 100 is equal to 10, and then divide that by 6. Now, once we get to this point, we do have two problems here, a plus and a minus. So we're going to have 8 plus 10 divided by 6. And then we're going to also have 8 minus 10 divided by 6. So 8 plus 10 is 18. 18 divided by 6 is going to be 3. So you can see how we've already got one of the answers that we got on this other side. 8 minus 10, we know that's going to be negative 2. So negative 2 divided by 6 is a fraction, which will reduce down to negative 1/3. And once again, that is also an answer over here on the left-hand side as well. So 2 ways to work number 3. Pick the way that works best for you and use that form. Number 4. Number 4 is a little bit different because we're still solving, but this one does not have a b value in it. So that makes me automatically start thinking that I can use the square root method. So in this problem, I'm going to start off by adding 2 to both sides. And that's going to give me 2x squared is equal to 162. Now I can go ahead and get rid of the 2 because multiplication is inverse is division. So the 2's cancel out and leaves me x squared is equal to 162 divided by 2 is 81. Take the square root of both sides. And the square root of x squared we know is x. The square root of 81 is going to give us two answers, positive and negative 9. So remember, this can be written as positive or negative 9, or it can be written as x equals positive 9 and x equals negative 9. You can see those written as either way, but both of those would be possible solutions that you can see on the test. Number 5, I want you to identify the vertex and the y-intercept for the problem. So to work that out, all we're going to do, first off, the y-intercept is really easy. Because when we're in standard form, it's easy to identify the y-intercept because the y-intercept is equal to c. All right, so in other words, the y-intercept is going to be 0, c. So as long as you know the c value, which here it's negative 4, you can figure out the y-intercept. So here it's going to be 0, negative 4. And keep in mind, that's only standard form. That's only standard form. Doesn't work for the other forms. Now, to figure out the vertex, we're going to use the formula x equals negative b over 2a. Make sure you have this formula memorized, or you're not going to have that on the test tomorrow. So, to work that out, we know here we've got negative times b, which is going to be positive 3, divided by 2 times a, which is going to be negative 2. And then we just solve the problem. So, negative times 3 is going to be negative 3. 2 times negative 2 is going to be negative 4. And we know negative divided by negative is positive, so we can make this fraction a positive 3/4. And that's going to give us our x part to our vertex. So right now we've got 3/4, and then we've got some other number that we need to figure out. Now, to figure out that other number, we're simply going to take the 3/4, and we're just going to substitute it into those x's to get the answer. So that's going to be y equals negative 2, parentheses x, which is going to be 3/4, squared, plus 3x, which we know x is going to be 3/4, and then minus 4. So to solve this, I would suggest using a calculator. So if you take a second, substitute in everything that you see here into the calculator. It'll take you just a moment. And when you finish that, you should come up with an answer. I believe the answer is, actually I'm going to need to substitute it into a calculator, so give me 1 second. Alright, sorry about that. I couldn't remember if my answer was positive or negative. So here our answer is going to be negative 23 over 8. So once we identify those two values, that's going to give us an answer to work with. Now, that's going to be our vertex. Keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that on the test, there's probably not going to be a fraction as your vertex, but if there is, you're prepared for it. So understand the answer may not be this bad, like this, but you could end up getting fractions. It's a possibility. So keep that in mind as you work through those problems. All right, number 6. Number 6 was probably one of the easiest problems I've seen on a test in a while. And we've seen one like this on the last little quiz or test that we had. So identifying the zeros. Remember, this term zeros just simply means you can see it written as the word zeros, you could see it written as the word roots, or you could see it written as the word x-intercepts or even solutions. But anytime you see any of those words, it's just simply talking about the x-intercepts. So here the x-intercepts are at 6 and 8. So you just need to write down 6, 0 and 8, 0 as your solutions. That's pretty easy. And number 7, looks like number 7 we have transformations. So here you're going to want to go back and review your transformations. This is all memorization. And if you start to memorize these, it'll make more sense to you. So when you're looking at these, you're always going to either have a positive or negative out in front. In this case, it's positive, so that does nothing. The 3/4 is going to tell you if it's going to be vertical stretch or vertical shrink. So here, 3/4 just means that it's a vertical shrink. The positive 5 that's in the parentheses, or the number that's in the parentheses, is always going to indicate if it's moving right or left. So since it's positive 5, it's going to move left 5 units. And then the positive 4 on the end always indicates if it moves up or down. So since it's positive 4, it moves up. So in this one, it just wants you to identify the transformations. So that's all you need to do in number 7. And I believe number 8 was very similar to that. It had one more thrown in there, though. So in number 8, it said that we have a negative in front. So keep in mind, the negative just simply means that's a reflection or a flip. The 5 here is a number that's greater than 1, so that's actually going to be a vertical stretch. The number inside the parentheses is a negative 3, which means that moves to the right 3. And then the negative 1 on the end, that's up or down, so in this case it's negative, which means it goes down. So just make sure you review your rules on those, and you should be good. I'm going to go ahead and end this video at number 8, since I'm at 14 minutes and 32 seconds, so that we can continue with a second part, and the second part should be another 15 minutes. There may be a third part tonight, but I'll get all 3 of those videos uploaded here in a second.